howdy, Joseph.
Hi, hello, how are you?
We heard the news,
We're quite enthused.
and the only thing to do
What should we do?
is strum this guitar
And sing to the stars.
and serenade you.
You survived, and that's true. I thought I'd send a little wish to you.
That is some mighty fine fiddling. But hey, let's pick it up.
All right.
That's more like it. Yeehaw!
Play it for Joseph.
All right, now where were we? Okay, you're still standing, and that's pretty great.
Joseph.
You know what? You kicked his butt. It's time to celebrate.
Joseph.
Spurs will jingle jangle.
It's time to do-si-do.
So grab yourself a partner and let's see go.
Cause it's a
Jingle jangle here and a jingle jangle there. A jingle jangle inspiration everywhere. A jingle jangle here and a jingle jangle there.
a jingle jangle inspiration everywhere.
All right. That's how you celebrate.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous. I'm famous. Joseph Jaffe is a delusional human being who thinks he's famous. He's not famous. He's not famous. I'm famous.
We are human, we are animals, we crave the ability to be we. I know it's called me Andes. We Andes might have sounded differently.
Is it a disco now?
Yeah, it's the after party, so it's now we go with the flash.
My goal in life is to be a laptop sticker.
Me too.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.
It's a great honor, Mr. Jaffe. It's always nice to be with you.
I'm so happy to be with you. I'm honored.
Thanks for doing this too. It's a real service to the community.
What a great organization and a show that offers hope, optimism, creative solutions, entertainment.
Thank you for doing this, Joseph. It's your gift to the universe and it's appreciated.
Very human, and I like that.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're insane!
Well, hello from Ireland. Actually, Ireland, Connecticut. Actually, kind of Ireland is somewhere in Maine. There is all these Irish places like, I don't know, Bangor and other towns, cities. There's definitely a concentration in Maine, but I'm not in Maine. I am in Connecticut, or maybe I'm in the metaverse, who knows? And my guest today, Jason Keath, not a lot of people know that he's actually originally from Ireland. Completely not true, just fake news. That's why we had Scaramucci, the Mooch, introducing us. Well, I hope you're well and welcome to the show. It is a day to be happy because when we survive, you know, for me, it was heart surgery, it was COVID. You may as well be happy. You may as well be joyous. You may as well celebrate every day you have as if it was your only day, as if it was your last day on this third rock from the sun. So I'm celebrating the Alpha Collective, and you can celebrate too. We'll be minting very soon. Go to alphacollective.xyz to sign up for email updates and minting alerts, and you can win a membership pass worth 1 ETH, which on any given day can be anywhere between $2,700 and $58 billion. That is the volatility of crypto right now. But at the moment, I guess ETH is about 2,800 or 2,900, or maybe it'll be 3,000 again. We're not quite sure. But that is the Alpha Collective. Also, next week from Sunday through Wednesday, I will be in Phoenix, Arizona at CX. I've had Ali Straza and Daniel Pink on the show, and Jamar, John Johnson, just so many of the amazing Nora Dunn keynotes. You can see them all, and I'll be there. So if you want to hang with me, I would love that. I would love to be able to spend time with you IRL, give you a big hug, I'll even give you a kiss if you like, only if you sign 58 waivers and promise not to sue me or the organizers of CX. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But it's going to be fun. And then I'm going to I'm going to do a couple of cool things. I'll be doing the show live from CX. So anyone who walks by can walk onto the show, or maybe I'll have a few of the keynotes join me on the show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So expect some live shows on site, which should be quite interesting. I'm learning, for example, when you do a live show and you have a guest with you, don't look at them, even though you want to make eye contact. You have to look at the camera. You have to look at the audience. In fact, it's interesting because when you look at SNL, they're always looking at the audience, and it always feels weird because they're in dialogue, they're having a conversation, and yet they're looking at the audience. And for me, it just doesn't land as well, because I almost think they're only looking at the camera because they're reading their lines or they're reading their cue cards. So I guess the way things have always been done doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way, but it is for now. Now, speaking of now you can go to my Not Famous Discord. That is bit.ly/Not Famous Discord, and go to a channel called Bot Commands or Bot Commands and type /join. When you do that, you will get your role, and that will be based on how much Jaffe coin you have. And by the way, if you need coin, you can get coin. Well, you can, you can't. I'll explain it more in a moment. That QR code is going to give you Jaffe coin, but you need to have some coin in order to get more coin. Doesn't it seem obvious that way? But here's the thing. If you do have one Jaffe coin, if you do go and buy just one Jaffe coin, and why wouldn't you? Something's going to happen, which is you'll get your regular role, which means now you absolutely can open up a whole bunch of channels on my Discord. You can get access to speaker bios. You can get access to pre-shows. You can ask my guests questions via text. You also get a calendar of upcoming guests a month in advance. So there's a whole bunch of things. But should you actually hold 10 coins, you would actually get the fan roll. And now that QR code, in fact, the QR code right now is live. It is only live while the show is live. And it's only giving coin to people that have the fan role in Discord. So you can see what's happening here. We are creating a retention and advocacy-centric community of not just viewers anymore, but really of fans, of partners. Now, at 25 coin, you become an insider. And so today, when I'm done taking notes, as I do every episode, you will get my show notes, maybe even some video summaries of today's episode with Jason. And that's what happens when you have 25 coin. At 50 coin, you become a VIP. You get you don't get a walk-on roll, but you get a backstage pass, which means right now you could be watching the show from the same virtual green room that Jason is sitting in. And for 15, 20 minutes before the show begins, you can actually ask questions of me to Jason or to whomever my guest is. And finally, at 100 coin, you become a super fan. That means you actually get to suggest guests for the show. You get to come on the show and ask them or talk to them live on air. And you also get access to a monthly conversation, a monthly call just between myself and super fans, where we get to discuss the show, how to grow the show, but also how to grow your show as well. So I'm really excited about it. And the most important thing to share with you is the fact that you hold the coin. So you hold it. It's yours. It's yours to sell. It's yours to gift. It's yours to do whatever you want with it. And if the coin goes up, you make money. And if it doesn't, then you don't. But hopefully you're getting value and utility back in exchange. So let's now focus on not the not famous host, but the famous guests. Elliot Koss yesterday, Jason Keath today, David Dylan Thomas tomorrow, and Amanda Russell on Thursday. Now, on Friday, we have NFT Fridays. I'm in discussion right now to get a collection, which as of right now, I cannot name, but I will hopefully soon. And they will be on the show on Friday. We'll also be doing the drawing. Again, if you have the fan roll, you get something called never-ending, a never-ending giveaway roll, which means that you can enter 1 week and you will continue to be eligible to win an NFT every week, or when I do the drawing, and you stay in the drawing until such time that you win. Maybe you won't, but maybe you will. And we'll be giving away a Tribe X NFT on Friday if we do the show. But just a little bit of a shout out, Mr. Tom Morris. He said, good to hear of your upcoming adventures. And I say this while looking at the camera. I'm looking at you. Here's looking at you, kid. And also shout out to my mother who's watching from South Africa. And she gives a check mark, which is better than an X. So she approves of what I'm not really sure, but I'm glad you approve. Well, now it's time for our seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy today is called All In or All Out. And as always, it is inspired by, what, let's go with this one. Yeah, this is a better one. So are you all in life, in love, in relationships, in adventure, in journeys? Are you an entrepreneur? I once heard that real entrepreneurs go all in. You can't be half pregnant, as the saying goes. You either are or you aren't. There are many, many entrepreneurs, founders that come to me that I mentor as part of Founders Institute or at conferences, etc. I've been mentoring at South by Southwest for several years now. And I get it. So many of them have day jobs. So many of them still have a salary. And yet they're pursuing this dream of theirs, this baby of theirs, this vision of theirs. And is it fair to tell them that they actually are not all in because they haven't cut the cord? They haven't released the safety net. They're not flying by the seat of their pants. They're not going all out. They're hedging their bets. I don't know whether that is fair or not fair to say, and I'm not one that's going to say it or not. But I will say that if you really believe in something, and if you really, really want to be all in, then you do have to figure out a way to throw caution to the wind. Otherwise, you become a jack of all trades and master of none. But I have a closing thought, which is maybe instead of judging, instead of being able to tell people that they have to quit, that they have to give up, that they have to put their mortgage or their kids' college funds on hold in order to pursue a fool's errand of being a startup founder, of launching an NFT collection, knowing full well that most of them are going to fail. Maybe there's a better way or another way that says, rather than go all in, go all out. Just go all out. Just give your heart, your soul, your energy into something. Even if you have a day job, just make sure that your time is focused time, is quality time. And when you are working on this passion project of yours, you are at that moment all in. And now it's time to go all in with my guest, Mr. Jason Keath. Now, Jason is a man that has gone all in, I would say, with social media. But now it seems like there's a little bit of an interesting transition happening. Jason is the co-founder of Social Fresh, the original OG social media conference and consultancy. He is a brand strategist for innovative brands, focusing on the intersection of social, Web3, and creativity. Let's bring him on. Mr. Jason Keath, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jaffe. Excited to be here. Always really excited to talk to someone as smart as yourself, and I love what you've done with this show.
Oh, thank you. I will deflect it all the way back to you because nobody wants to hear what I have to say. But Jason, I like even in this idea of the intersection of social, Web3, and creativity. What you've really done is you've built a bridge. What you've done is you've created a crossover rather than say, well, I was focused on social bad, Web3 good. Instead of focusing with maybe a dramatic or an extreme a binary transition. I see an addition, I see an amplification, I see an extension, I see an evolution that allows you to create just an additional layer of meaning, context, and value to your value prop.
Yeah, I love that description. I mean, I think I'm not alone in the people that have committed and jumped into Web3 as kind of something they either want to spend a lot of their time on or already spending most of their time on. For me, and as I said, I think this is an experience a lot of people are having. It really just pulled together a lot of pieces of my career into one kind of package. So I do have a history of going to art school and being a creative, lead creative agencies. I have a history of working on social media for most of my career. And I think those two things are extremely important to Web3. I mean, the social layer especially is Web3 doesn't exist without the social layer. And then ironically, or by happen chance, a lot of our consulting clients existed in the finance world, in banking and fintech, and started to touch into the crypto space. So it was just a natural evolution. It's something that clients started talking to us about, that even our Social Fresh conference customers started talking about, that we realized we needed to become a better expert resource on. And that's what we've spent the last 2 years doing. And it's been a really fun and interesting ride.
So we talk about ironies. Well, it's also interesting and maybe not ironic, maybe just very apropos, that today is World Intellectual Property Day. Actually, initially, when I was researching it, it said World Property Day. And I thought, well, that's quite kind of appropriate given everyone's going crazy for the Bored Ape Yacht Club metaverse land grab. But it's actually World Intellectual Property Day. And irony upon irony, coincidence upon coincidence, everybody's talking about free speech and banning and cancel culture and Elon Musk buying Twitter. So what are your thoughts about intellectual property in a day and age of Web3 degens, and more importantly, where one human being has now just decided to buy the town square?
Yeah, that's a big question. There's a lot there. So, within social media, there's not a lot of owned intellectual property, like especially for our audience, which are social media managers, directors, brand VPs, and up for our kind of legacy business. You're creating content and you're pushing it out there at a very fast pace on Twitter, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Facebook, et cetera. But there's not a lot of ownership of that content. I mean, intrinsically, that content is owned by whatever brand is hiring you to produce it, right? And now we look at the Web3 space, you look at NFTs, you look at communities that exist out there and tokens, and all of that has typically a collective owner. It's a whole different mindset. It's I've said it's a rebirth of community, or the second breath of community, because community and social have been these two topics that have existed at the same time, but social media has been much more of a public talking point. Now community has an ownership layer that really changes it puts gasoline on that fire, and it amplifies a lot of the work that you can do with organizing collective progress on kind of shared visions. So I think in that regard, owning, when you say property, it means there's ownership on some level, and that ownership now is spread out. It's not about a gatekeeper as much as it's about a collective tribe owning something, collaborating, cooperating. So I think that piece is fascinating. It's a lot of the work we do with brands now in consulting is that ownership layer and helping them understand what that looks like for them. And, a lot of that is experimentation and doing things for the first time today. We're still building those best practices. When it comes to someone, Elon Musk buying Twitter and what that looks like, that's a whole new conversation. I think you're sharing my Twitter thread from this morning. I think there's a lot of people that are suspicious, that are apprehensive about Elon Musk, and rightfully so. He's got a checkered history of being immature, being pumping and dumping stocks and crypto assets, and not taking things seriously, but also kind of changing the world over and over repeatedly with different businesses and technologies he's created. I think I'm optimistic about what he could do, but also scared that he's going to screw it up. in some major way. And when it comes to, Twitter, which is such an important platform for me, I mean, I know you and I have been on Twitter. You may have even been on it longer than me, but it's kind of like a 15-year run now. I've built businesses on this platform. I've met lifelong friends on this platform. It's highly important to the work that I do and the friendships that I have in the world. So I don't know. I think he has the right perspective. I think he has the right motivation. I hope he's the right person to usher this platform into where it needs to go next. It does need to innovate. It does need to try new things. So until he screws up, I'm just going to keep voicing what I think should be out there and encouraging other people to. And I have some opinions, and hopefully they will trickle up towards his feed at some point, because he does respond and listen sometimes. So fingers crossed, I would say, is my perspective there.
Well, I mean, there's a nuance between like if he stuffs up, when he stuffs up, or until he stuffs up, meaning it is inevitable. And it is always inevitable because, even the thesis of Built to Suck is that, it's not it comes with size, right? It comes with age. It comes with being set in your ways. We are basically engineered to suck at some point. But he is, I think the anti-aging component is an interesting one. If I have to ruminate on it, I know Tom Morris is watching and he's our resident philosopher, but you do kind of need to be a little immature. You do need to be a little bit childlike in order to bring something to the table that I don't know if it's a spark. I don't know if it's imagination or creativity. Obviously the flip side of that is children can be quite malicious and cruel at the best of times too. So let's hope it's the former, not the latter.
Yeah, I mean, him being a risk taker, I think, is a good thing. Him being comfortable, innovating, trying new things, swaying the norms of platforms and even governments and technology. Those are all can be good things. I think the negative that is very fair to place at Elon's feet is, and anyone on any social platform should keep this in mind, is he falls into this area of punching down on people quite a bit. And unfortunately for him, as rich as he is, as famous as he is, as much power as he has, that's pretty much the whole world. Anytime he's on a platform, on a pedestal like that, he is pretty much punching down when he's attacking anyone. And I think he does it maliciously sometimes, and I don't like that. So that would be the public complaint I have. I think if he would cut that out, he would solve a lot, if not all, of his problems. Because I'm okay with him being silly and doing stupid stuff on Twitter quite a bit. But when he's attacking a person, I think that's something we can all live without on our town hall or our town square, as he put it.
It's again, interesting, because when we think about the last personality that dominated on Twitter, it was another individual who happened to have, the football and the nuclear codes, who also punched down. And people would say his policies and actually some of the things he thinks about or talks about are not actually half bad, if only he didn't punch down. But I think, Jason, what I study, I really pay attention to leadership, and especially leadership in corporations. The case study that I wrote about was GE, and, this idea of success theater. I think when you become too famous, which is why I am decidedly not famous, you end up surrounding yourself with yes men and yes women who enable and close you off, and you become detached from the real world. And I think that's the concern I have, is that he is not immortal. He's not living within us, normal people. But with that comes this fear of him being detached from reality.
Yeah, I mean, I think leadership today is best served when you're kind of raising other people up to help you accomplish your goals. I think he's accomplished great things. I think anybody that's trying to take on a large new task, a new company, a new venture, whether it's Web 2, Web 3, whatever it is, being entrepreneurial, if you can inspire other people to join you, that's when great things happen. I think Elon has the potential to do that. I don't see him really leveraging that fully today. I think he's much more of a micromanager and he's smarter than a lot of people, if not everyone in the room. And I think we all can fall into that. And I think, if you can reduce the micromanaging and increase the inspiring of others and rally around the flag effect, I think that's where the trends are going online. And I think that's what business looks like in the future.
We actually discussed him in my NYU class yesterday, and I just said, can you imagine actually being head of CorpCom at Tesla, or you probably like walk in like on a normal day, looking, like a child, and walking out the next day with wrinkles, grizzled, white hair, bald patches, and on the verge of a nervous breakdown. But anyway, enough about Elon, because nobody cares about Elon Musk. People care about Jason Keath, and people want to know fun facts about Jason Keath. We all know about Social Fresh. We all know about the innovation, but people want to get to know the real Jason Keath. So, for example, they want to know that he is actually, believe it or not, the love child of Jimmy Fallon and Ben Affleck. This is what I realized, actually, Jason. Is this you, by the way? I think
that is a very old, young photo of me. Yes.
So, I mean, look at it. Are you not the perfect combination of Ben Affleck and Jimmy Fallon? It's rhetorical. You are.
I'll let you go then.
Well, I put this in as well when I started looking, because Jimmy Fallon follows you on Twitter, and you have no idea why.
Yeah, I have a lot of famous people that follow me on Twitter, and I don't really know the extent of how that happened. I mean, I think early in social media, maybe a lot of their social media managers or teams knew me or followed me because of that. But I also used to be really active politically on Twitter as well. And I have a lot of, people in Congress and the Senate that follow me, and all of Hulk Hogan's family follows me for some reason. I still don't know that one either. But Jimmy Fallon's probably the one I'm most proud of. I think he still follows me, even though we've DM'd once or twice. So that's a pretty big win, I think.
Well, that's okay. So there are, I think, 3 levels of Twitter fame. The first is, do they follow you? The second is, have you DM'd with them? And then the highest level, have they blocked you? Anyone famous block you?
Probably. I haven't run into it. No one comes to mind. I'm sure they're out there, though.
I mean, I think his claim to fame, Mr. Scott Monty, is that Donald Trump actually blocked him.
That's pretty big.
I think that's huge. Now, Glenn is here. He is watching not from a huge place, but from a small place. He's watching the show from a tiny island in the Turks, as opposed to in the metaverse. So, Glenn, thank you for watching, and I hope you got your Jaffe coin. Remember, Glenn, you will need to own, and you do own 10, and claim that role. And so, there's your QR code as well. Maybe you can use a 10th of a Jaffe coin, which I just gave away today, which is about $1 to, I don't know, buy yourself a 10th of a pina colada. So who knows? Who knows? All right, Jason, you're probably looking and thinking, what else has Jaffe got on me? Nothing that's going to embarrass you too much. For example, you are a trained artist with a fine arts degree in painting, sculpture, photography, photography and design. So we actually have a photo from your graduating class here. Not to be confused with Van Gogh at all, please, not to be confused at all. But I kind of love this about you, this and the fact that you taught yourself iOS front-end design a few years ago for your UX design, and you actually ended up kind of working on your partner Nicole's 19-minute yoga app. So there we are. We actually, like, you're really good at yoga. But there's something interesting about you. I didn't know this. I didn't know about your creative streak and how you are self-taught. How important do you think it is, Jason, to like actually go out and master these skills yourself in order to really understand the space and its potential?
I mean, as a marketer, as a brand person, I think, having the creative skill set and having kind of a deep bench of creative projects and personal and professional accomplishments in that field has been really invaluable. It's just, I'm typically have that unique perspective to bring to problems and bring to brand challenges that a lot of folks don't have. And I think it's even really more important. It was incredibly important to social, because I think the one way you stand out in social media is just have a much better creative than the other folks out there. And most of that starts with great copywriters. But in Web3, I think it's kind of in a new direction where you do have the NFT art side of the Web3 world, but you also have just the creativity you need to build these new types of communities, new types of interactions between brands, new types of new types of kind of paradigms, ways brands think about each other and think about their fans and think about their relationship with customers. I think all of that is being flipped upside down, and the more creative you can be, the better. It also, I will say, is a negative sometimes, simply because I have kind of high creative standards and will end up doing creative myself. I've really gotten a lot better at it over the last few years. So I think if you're that type of creative person that's becoming an entrepreneur, learn to outsource your creative task early in your career. That would be my single piece of advice for people in that situation.
As someone who became an advocate for online creativity or the lack thereof, I started a roadshow called the Battle for the Heart in 2004, 2005. And I capitalized, the A in heart, right? The battle for the heart, the head in the heart, art and science. And it was just, it was frustrating to me, the lack of creativity in the digital space, at the time. But I remember one of the things that I always would lead with is that the definition of creativity, one of the dictionary definitions, is productive originality. So productive originality, meaning doing things differently to get a result. And of course, anyone paying attention would say, wait a second, as opposed to insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And I love the fact that what creativity really does, it is about solutions. It is about, again, crossover and bridges between art and science, right? The ROI, but also with risk taking, with innovative approaches as well. And even what you said earlier, which is we need to be creative now. We need to be productively original now with the way brands forge connections and build relationships with their customers, because the old economic market-driven exchange is not good enough anymore.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you've worked on brand campaigns for a while, and there's always this pattern of us getting into just repeatable templates of marketing ideas. And I think even looking at Web3, the way brands are moving into Web3, it's like one of two or maybe three ways they're doing it, and they're all very rote. It all feels like the same playbook that they're being handed by one or two agencies that are doing a lot of the work. And I think there's just so much, especially in Web3, there's just so much opportunity to try new things and come at it from different directions. So I'm always challenging our clients to do that. We challenge ourselves to do that. We always have internal projects that we're working on to experiment and make sure we're learning. And I think that's pretty essential, is to try to at least once a year do something big that no one else is doing, that's not out there yet.
And it's a tough one, right? Because on one hand, you almost have to train yourself to say, when everyone's doing it, we shouldn't be doing it, right? We should be zigging when the others zag, but at the same time, not to be different for the sake of being different. And the reality is, and I think you said it best, most brands out there are going to follow the crowd or not want to stand out from the crowd. And that just flies in the face of what we're trying to do, which is to break through the clutter. So it's like this catch-22. And now we have this new landscape, this new sandbox called, Web3 in the metaverse. And I just wonder whether brands are going to make the same mistakes again.
I mean, they are. I mean, you look at one of my biggest frustrations is the metaverse experiments that are happening in Web3. So all of them are basically, hey, look at this space I built in this metaverse as a brand, and come walk around it. It's literally like just setting up a booth outside of a mall and asking people to walk around and experience it. There's no call to action. Or the only other thing they do is they have some type of skin or something you can wear that's aligned with the brand. And the only brands that should really be doing that, I think, are as their main activation is maybe fashion. That is pretty well aligned with fashion. But outside of that, those are the two main ways people are in this metaverse experiment. I'm very skeptical of metaverse plays for brands right now. I think it's more of a splashy PR. If you're going after that PR story, fine, no problem. PR matters. But for most 99% of them, I think it's they could be much better served launching a Discord community or launching an NFT collection or doing, there's a couple other ideas we have for the metaverse that we're hoping to work with clients on soon that we're pitching, and I think are a much better direction. But I've seen that now maybe 100 times, one of those two categories of things, and it just doesn't create a lasting experience, a lasting touch point for any brand with a customer or potential customer.
I mean, strategically, as someone who lived in Second Life and experienced it,
it's the same thing.
One of the things, and I lived. I mean, I had a penthouse. I had beautiful art on my wall. We had a diner that we would actually conduct interviews when we were hiring people. We had a movie theater that we would live stream premieres in. We had coffee with crayons. We had coffee in the mornings. We really focused on it. It wasn't real utility, because utility is utility, but it was this idea of being able to extend a presence that wasn't possible before. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. What I mean by that is, if we did not meet IRL, right, at the time, if we didn't meet in the real world, how would we have coffee together? I mean, I suppose you could have a conference call, but it just didn't feel intimate enough. So when you had avatars standing around and talking to one another and clapping hands and laughing, and it felt similar and yet extremely different. And for me, what I say to brands is, your physical store is your physical store. I get it. Your online store is called your website, and your website sucks. And it sucks not just because it's badly designed and bad UI and bad UX, etc. It's because websites suck. There's no music. There's no store greeter, right? There's no hanging out with other people. There's no noise. There's nothing. There's just a sterile page with stuff you can buy. The metaverse potentially brings something else to the table. And that's why I loved what you said. Turn it back to you, Jason. You spoke about a rebirth of community. I love that idea. The phoenix rising from the ashes. How appropriate is that? That, my friend, is a segue.
Very well done. Very well done. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a concept of bringing back what was old and can be new again. I think we're seeing that with community and a lot of Web 1.0 concepts of, open source internet, of things that really worked back in the 90s and early 2000s that we kind of lost a little bit. And as you mentioned, our Remint project, that's similar. That's also what we're trying to do for NFTs. It's a really crowded space. This is one of our internal projects that we just launched. I believe we've sold 17 of the 99 memberships for this. And basically,
hold on. Sorry, I need to I need to stop you for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just I think that's actually not accurate, by the way, about what you've sold. You said 17, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're just going to have to change that very quickly and do a live minting on the show.
Nice.
0.25. No, $770. Hell no, I'm kidding. Let's buy that right now, and we will click on it. And
I don't know. Is it reputable?
You know what? I know where you live, more or less. So tell me what I just bought, by the way.
So you just bought one of 99 prime owner NFTs in the Remint DAO. So Remint is a group of NFT collectors who strives to resurrect old NFT collections. So there's so many NFT collections that are launching out every day that there's just a ton of noise, and inevitably great projects, great art, great founding teams are just getting lost in the fray. They don't get a spotlight on them for whatever reason. Maybe they're not good at marketing. Maybe there's 10 other projects that have better influencers than them that day. And if you're a project that doesn't 10x in the first month these days, you go to zero pretty quick. So we are looking to see if we can change that by finding the best collections that exist that never really had that initial hit, or maybe they were popular for a short time and have waned since then. And when I say old collections, I mean, it could be, 3 months is an eternity in this space. So it could be 3 months old, it could be 6 months, 9 months. And right now we're just getting, it's very early. We're taking it slow. We're trying to research I think we have several collections that are nominated by members already. And we're starting small with just 99 people because we really want to treat this as an experiment, see what we can do collectively. We'll support whichever collections we remint by buying a small number from the community wallet, encouraging individuals, members to buy from their personal wallets. That'll be a lot of our buying power is the personal wallets, and however comfortable people feel with how many they could buy from a collection. So that kind of collective and individual buying is pretty important. Also, just straight promotion, whether it's Twitter Spaces, changing our PFPs on Twitter, giving advice and consultation to the collections themselves, working with them directly if possible. And then, in general, we are going to be publishing a thesis for each collection we remint. And that thesis will be available to members first. It'll be available to our Discord community second, and then to the public. So at each stage of that, as you can imagine, people will buy the collection if they believe in the purpose and the thesis we've released. So we're hoping that minimal effort is kind of our foundation of how we can remint a collection. And then we're still brainstorming today what else that process might look like. How do you revive an old NFT collection? Why would you want to do that? What does our kind of moral compass look like besides just appreciating great art and the technology behind these projects? And that's the initial concept that I created. It started with a tweet maybe a month ago, and just I got a lot of DMs where people love the idea, so we're running with it. And I'm most enthusiastic, most excited about what it becomes after that, because we can open up to more members. We can support collections in ways I haven't thought of. I mean, there's some of the details that have already been decided that I've talked about already that I didn't come up with, that our early members came up with. Like the idea of the thesis was something that I didn't have baked in originally. So yeah, it's a fun project. It's something that I think will be a really native Web3 experience, and also something that I'm passionate about on the creative and art side, and appreciating art that really hasn't gotten a spotlight that maybe it deserved.
Well, as you can see, hopefully this didn't like drain my wallet or something, because I was like, it didn't work the first time.
So maybe you got two. Maybe you're.
I don't know. Maybe I did. So there's the proof that I've minted it. I actually was one.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. I was actually one of the people that initially, when I saw your tweet in one of our back channels or one of our DM channels, I was like, this is brilliant. And it is brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. And I'm so glad to be a part of this. I'll tell you what I love about it. First of all, the idea is great. The execution of the idea is great. I mean, I'm just going to send lots of praise your way, because you deserve it. Also, I love how you went from a tweet to execution so quickly. Like, you just made it happen. But the thing that really connects with me is the fact that we're living in this world right now where things are moving so quickly that we aren't able to actually see the wood for the trees. We aren't able to recognize. So, life, here's how life works. Life works, and Facebook is probably your perfect example, that mediocre ideas mediocre, concepts can do far, far better than they should. And brilliant ideas, like Wikipedia, for example, will struggle in terms of the fact that on any given day that I go to Wikipedia, they're like begging for money. And I'm just talking about in terms of support, in terms of size, right? Facebook, if it were a country, it would be like a top 10, I don't know, GDP country in the world. So that's the way life works. Great ideas often never see the light of day, and mediocrity, on the other hand, does. And so I often say this, Jason. I say this to marketers all the time. Just because it doesn't work today doesn't mean it won't work tomorrow, and just because it works today doesn't mean it will work tomorrow. So it's like it works both ways. There are so many collections that have basically gone to zero that didn't deserve to go to zero, but everyone FOMO'd on and moved on to the next bright and shiny object. And that's why I think this is going to do so well, because you're going to see great people, great art, great vision, great roadmaps, and be able to, resurrect them. You are a necromancer of sort.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not a new concept either. I mean, historically, brands have done this time and again. They've taken old products, old brands, and brought them back to new life. I think we're seeing that today. I think you look at someone like Gary Vee is always inspiring people to look at that type of thing. He was trying to buy Gumby, or thinking about buying the Gumby IP for a while, like trying to get an old brand and bring it to some type of new reality, give it fresh blood. A great example is the G.I. Joe toy, which was originally a toy in the 60s and got relaunched in the 80s as a cartoon and reinvigorated the brand. It became, just a powerhouse in the 80s, right? And it still has movies being made today. So I think, back to our early conversation about IP, great IP can come from a lot of places. We see comic books and novels getting turned into movies on a regular basis. I think we're pretty close to seeing some movies being made out of NFTs soon. There's a lot of people working in that direction. And I think, a group like this could go pretty big. It could stay small and I'd be perfectly happy with it. It could stay 99 people. We could resurrect a couple NFT collections a year that really work out well. Some people will make money off of it, which is an added bonus, including the collections we work with, I hope. But I think it also could get really big. I mean, it could become an IP holder eventually, actually buying collections or actually creating new collections. So there's a lot of opportunity when you get that type of, again, shared ownership, people working together that have a share in the upside of a project. And the technology is there to help us do that today. It's really fun.
Yeah, and I mean, we went through all these times, especially with the whole .com boom and bust, with the pets.com, Sock Puppet, and Cosmo. But it's not just about bringing back, defunct brands, and it's not. I mean, it is, but it's also about nostalgia, because we long for the connection. We long for something that makes us feel safe, that reminds us of good times, good memories, good experiences. But the third part, which I think is part of the X factor here, is the fact that there are way too many collections that deserved a second look. And so, Fanzo, our mutual friend Fanzo, will refer to it as slow burn. Slow burn is awesome. The Alpha Collective, as far as I'm concerned, I hope it's a slow burn. I don't want it to do, to sell out overnight, because it would be too hard to then have to execute and be able to ramp that up. But the problem with slow burn, and I'll use an extended metaphor here, is if you run out of oxygen, the flame is going to be extinguished. And that's the challenge here. Slow burn is great, but at some point, you need a little bit of an accelerant. Otherwise, that flame is going to go out for good. Wait, you're muted.
Apologies. There's been collections that have been, we're focusing a lot on NFTs here, but I think, this carries over to a lot of different analogous topics. But there's been a lot of NFT projects that have launched really well. And then a month later, 2 months later, the team that was supporting them just was not either motivated or equipped to keep it going. And I see some of those today where they have 10,000 people in a Discord, and there's just not enough leadership or enough motivation to take it to the next stage. So I think there's a lot of reasons why these things happen. We see it in startup world. We see it in communities that get built on platforms every day, whether it's a Facebook group or a Slack group or professional orgs. So it's always a challenge. I think what helps is that ownership layer. If you look at some of these, again, I call them old NFT collections, but they could be anywhere from 3 years to 3 months old. Maybe the founding team moves on, and you'll still have a couple thousand people active in these Discords that have made their own community. They have this shared ownership of these objects, these digital objects. or these tokens, and it keeps that intrinsic motivation much tighter than other types of communities that have launched before would. So there's still opportunity to rekindle those fires, I think, longer because of that ownership piece.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, there's one community that was just the product of just a good old fashioned, garden variety rug where the founder ran away intentionally. And I go back like every 3 weeks, and they're still talking. Do you think Adam will show? I'm like, no, he won't. But they're still talking. They're still, you're right. It's just like they're still hanging out there. There's still a little bit of oxygen left, and it's sad, but it's also beautiful to see the fact that what we can intrinsically and intuitively, we just want to connect with one another, and we don't really need another person to give us a reason to connect or not to connect. We'll just do it ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that with the birth of social media. I mean, you saw so many, everyone, I think, correctly aligns the innovation of 2007, 2008 with Facebook and Twitter coming into their own with the kind of birth of Web3 that we see today. It feels very similar. Back then, there were a ton of tweet ups, a ton of conferences everywhere. I think today we see there's so many Web3 conferences happening in real life around Web3, whether it's crypto or blockchain events or Solana events or NFT conferences. It's just on and on and on. You can't go to all of them. I mean, every week there's something in Miami, New York, LA. And I think we are driven to connect. That's why social media exists as the number one time spent online. It's where we spend time because we know we need to connect to other people. We are built that way. And I think Web3 adds another financial layer to that hasn't really existed before, that amplifies that effect.
So, Jason, just in the time that we have left, I have to ask you a question, because the theme, what inspired me was this idea of going all in. And, as someone that I just knew as being an accomplished, credible, experienced leader in the social media space. I mean, Social Fresh as a brand. Now I see that you're innovating and doing some amazing things in the Web3 space. So this is the quote that I found for you, which is, if you aren't going all the way, why go at all? And this quote is by Joe Namath. And I just, I wanted to get your point of view on, you look at, old timers like you and like the two of us, although judging by what you look like without a beard, it's like a baby's bottom on your face. But like, what advice do you give to people in terms of trying to make the shift, trying to make the move? This idea of no safety net, going all in, going all out. How do you look at this journey? Because it is a bumpy journey. It is we've discussed the idea of slow burns, that it's not going to be overnight success. And even if it is, there's the danger of burnout as opposed to slow burn. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this kind of red thread throughout today's episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's romantic to think about jumping into something new without a net and giving it 100% of your energy and time. I'm cautiously a little more realistic. I think if someone, for instance, there's a lot of people, I'm in Jump DAO, which is a marketing and advertising DAO. And it's, jump meaning jump into Web3. And it's, we're trying to encourage more people to jump into Web3 and change their career over to Web3. And when you do, that's kind of your jump day. That's when you start your new career in Web3. But that transition is different for every person. I mean, number one, I think everyone needs to protect their financial health as their first and foremost step. But I think there is time and there is opportunity for you to find a community that can help you make that next big jump. Now, I'm talking about Web 2 to Web 3 right now, but this is for anything. Say you wanted to start, a restaurant in your hometown. That's a huge leap. It's a very fraught environment today, but always to open a restaurant. It's just a hard business to run. You don't take out $1 million in debt and do that without any restaurant experience or without any partners. And I think finding a group of like-minded people, finding partners, even if it's not people that are technically partners in your business and ownership, but finding a group that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can collectively work on creative projects with, that you can build with together is pretty essential. And that's kind of always the first step that's happened for me when making a transition in my life, whether personal or professionally. When I started Social Fresh, a big part of that was the Twitter community in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we launched it and where I'm originally from. Is without that kind of community of tweet ups every week in Charlotte of people that I was throwing the ideas around with and who really supported it from day one, it would have been much tougher to accomplish. So I think risk taking is important. Having a little bit of appetite for that is important, but always protect your finances first. Make sure you're being safe, and always have a community of people, small or large, that you can work with to take that big leap with.
So shared. It's not even shared risk or shared ownership as much as it is, which is go in eyes wide open, be smart, be cautious, be wise, and don't go alone, because you don't need to, because there are plenty of people that would go on the journey with you. Well, one place you don't need to be alone is Social Fresh 2022, June 21st to 23rd in Charlotte, in North Carolina. And if you use the code Not Famous, this is what people do these days. They use Not Famous codes to get famous discounts, 20% off Social Fresh. Jason, you've been doing events Social Fresh now for how long?
Since 2008. This will be our 29th conference.
So long enough is the answer, right? Long enough to know how to do it properly.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to events all my life. Somehow it became a part of my career, and I really love what happens at an in-person event. It takes those very fun and organic moments online, and it just 10x's them, and really get to know people and start businesses with people, form lifelong friendships. And I'm excited. This will be our first conference since before the pandemic. And we've got, Shopify, Lyft, Audi, Auntie Anne's, who has an amazing TikTok account, if you haven't seen it. Just a who's who of brand, social media leaders. And we've got some really exciting sessions. There'll be some sessions touching on Web3, but it's mostly organic social media, paid social media, content creation, influencer marketing, teaching social media managers, community managers, kind of what's next in social and what's working today.
Oh, that old stuff, right? We've lost interest in that stuff because we're now focused on the next big thing. Damn it, weren't you listening? Weren't you paying attention? Stop running from pillar to post and make sure that you get the basics right. If you do go there, you might even hang out with Jason at the bar, and he'll tell you why you suck at brainstorming. I did come across this in my research as well. Why do we suck at brainstorming, by the way?
It's a good question. That was actually the first, what do they call them? Bold talk.
Yeah, I did a bold talk in my day.
At Inbound. That was the very first one. I was the first one. And they asked me to speak about something that wasn't like in my everyday, product suite necessarily. So I went back to my creativity. I love working with groups and coming in and helping with brainstorms, and agencies bring me in sometimes to do that type of work. Mostly because we don't teach brainstorming. It's something that intrinsically, the only people that really teach it maybe are a little bit in art school or writing school, and some agencies. But most agencies they just assume you're at an agency, you must know how to come up with ideas. And there's some pretty, formulative foundational elements of brainstorming that go back to Mad Men days and before, that are very simple concepts that we just don't use anymore, like using anonymous ideation. There's a lot of people that get really uncomfortable in brainstorm situations for different reasons, for different ways our brains work. So building brainstorms for the way groups work, for the way groups work best. And some of it's focusing on scale, some of it's focusing on removing judgment from the equation. But I mean, I think that presentation, we probably had like 10 recommendations. And a lot of it is just expertise. If you don't have that core expertise, you were touching on this before, if you haven't really gone 100% in one direction and built kind of a core element of expertise that you're very knowledgeable about, it's harder to translate your knowledge into other categories. So, someone like Jerry Seinfeld has been writing jokes his entire life, is incredibly talented. He still spends, years on jokes, on solving problems in his repertoire, and getting those things perfectly done. And that's a story of expertise and scale that we all can learn from.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably spend an hour just talking about how to take old techniques and apply them to new problems or new solutions. But I'll just leave you with the idea. I've always loved the idea of great ideas in the agency business. Great ideas can come from anyone and anywhere as long as it's the creatives in the creative department, says the media person or the strategist that was always pressing his nose against the glass cube as well. This has been Jason Keath, the co-founder of Social Fresh. And here's the thing, you've found out about Remint DAO, but there's also Social Fresh DAO. He's building a union using Web3. He's big on DAOs. I'm expecting Brainstorm DAO to come on. Maybe we'll do that together. Brainstorm DAO. I've got the pitch for you as well, where people can come up with ideas, and based on their contribution and whether those ideas are used or not, they earn tokens, and they can actually be rewarded as such. It seems like a no-brainer. Jason, don't forget me when Brainstorm DAO comes out. So he is a busy man when he's not making NFT art. He really is taking and bridging and creating these wonderful crossovers. You can follow him on Instagram at Jason Keath, on Twitter, Jason Keath, Clubhouse, Jason Keath. Basically, he owns Jason Keath. Check out Remint DAO and go to OpenSea and join me, because there's at least one less left. And then finally, of course, go and register for Social Fresh 2022. You are busy, so thank you for making time for me. Come back anytime, Jason. And I know that I appreciate the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better, which I feel that I've been able to do. And another person who feels the same way is Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And I will be back tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jaffe. Pleasure.
Anytime.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.